Cedarcrest Middle School, what is up? If we haven't met yet, my name is Justin, and I'm excited. I'm excited because today we get to talk about the second piece of this conversation that we're calling Do Something. I love it because here's the thing. As followers of Jesus, we are not called to sit on the couch. We're called to get in the game. So whether you're watching this on a phone, on a TV, on a computer, on a tablet, I don't know what you're watching it on. I want you to know this. There's an invitation for us to get up and do something. When I was a kid, I used to occasionally watch this show called The Little Rascals. Oh man, I like that show. There's one part though that I didn't like, and that was when they go to their clubhouse. The clubhouse was called the He-Man Woman Haters Club. And I didn't quite get it. I didn't quite understand why these young kids were like, hey, listen, we're just not going to let girls in. No, they don't belong. No, they're not a part of this. Fun fact, if you ever come to Cedarcrest, I want you to know this, whether you're a guy or a girl, young or old, doesn't matter the color of your skin, like you belong. You know, when I was in middle school, like 6th, 7th grade, I had a friend, his name was Billy. And I remember people used to say things about Billy, and they weren't kind. See, Billy was born with a birthmark, like on the top of his head, and so his hair grew in white. He had dark hair and then this white spot. And people would pick on him for it. They would tease him, they would call him names, they would treat him as if he was less than because he was born with a spot of white hair. I mean, growing up, I had some really bad haircuts intentionally. Like I had a mullet one time with spikes and some lightning bolts on the side. Not a good look. I deserved to hear that I looked like a fool. But Billy did nothing wrong. Billy just showed up, and people were like, oh man, you're different, therefore you don't belong. You know, kind of like the He-Man Woman Haters Club. In this collection of conversations we're calling Do Something, we're looking at really two words, justice and injustice. Justice are the things in this world that are fair, equal, and right. Injustice, on the other hand, are things in this world that are unfair, unequal, and not right. Now, for some of you watching this right now, you've had an experience with injustice. Maybe you've seen it. Maybe you've heard it. Maybe you've even experienced it. And what I want to talk about right now is that space where, if you're honest, you're like, yeah, that was injustice. That wasn't fair. That wasn't equal. That wasn't right. See, for some of us, we're in the middle of experiencing injustice right now, or maybe we've experienced it days, weeks, months, years before. For some of us, we haven't experienced it. Here's what I know. If you go outside, if you turn on the TV, if you look at the news, it's only a matter of time before you either hear it, see it, or actually experience it yourself. And for this conversation, it's an opportunity for us to see all sides of injustice. Not just to say, hey, I haven't experienced it, so it doesn't exist. Not just to say, I've experienced it, and that's all that I know, but to go, hey, really, what does the Bible say about injustice? And what does the Bible say about our response to injustice? Because here's the thing I want to ask. When we've experienced injustice, we might actually begin to wonder, what do I do about injustice when it happens to me, not just around me? See, in the beginning, God created everything. And when God created the trees and the breeze and the water and the sky and the plants and the animals, he said it was good. But when he created people, he said it was very good, whole, complete, lacking nothing. In fact, when God created people, he first said, let us create them, mankind, man, woman, in our image. So if you are a man or a woman, a boy or a girl, you are made in the image of God. What that means is that you carry with you a representation of God the Father that actually nobody else has. You uniquely reflect the image of God to the world around you. And what that means is you have value. It means that you matter. If you have value, if you matter, then that means that you don't deserve to experience injustice. No one does. Absolutely nobody deserves to be treated in an unjust way. Because we're made in the image of God, it means that we deserve to be treated with respect. We were created to be treated with respect. And when we look at the idea of injustice, when you have experienced it, it says a lot less about you and a lot more about the world that we live in, specifically the people who are causing injustice to you and around you. What I love about the Bible is that it doesn't avoid difficult topics. There's this story about some real people. It's found in the book of Daniel, and these guys are actually friends of Daniel, and they were the recipients or the receivers of injustice. A little bit of backstory. They were living in a land that was ruled by a guy named King Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebuchadnezzar, he had a bit of an ego problem, I guess, and he ordered that everyone bow down and worship a statue that he created whenever they heard a certain type of music. The music would play, bow down, worship. And yet, Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were like, no, we're not doing it. No, we are not going to worship anything other than the one true God. Well, being a bit of an egomaniac, King Nebuchadnezzar said, if you don't do what I say, then you're going to be punished. You're going to be actually thrown into the fire, into a furnace, and it's going to burn you up. It's going to kill you. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, no, we're not doing it. We are going to worship God, and right there, they begin to experience injustice. They are treated as less than. And so they get tied up. They get tossed into this furnace. But what's so fascinating about this story is that these guys, they don't actually experience the harm of the fire. The Bible says that actually the guys that threw them in, they burned up. But in the fire, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and actually one other were left unharmed. Well, in the book of Daniel, chapter 3, verse 24, it begins by saying this, then King Nebuchadnezzar, I don't know how I just said his name wrong, but Nebuchadnezzar, he leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, weren't there 3 men that were tied up and thrown into the fire? They replied, certainly, your majesty. He said, look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods. I mean, what? Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. And the satraps and the prefects and the governors and the royal advisors crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair on their heads singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Here were 3 guys thrown into the middle of injustice. And on the backside, they came out unharmed. See, the very same thing can be true of us. When we experience injustice, we don't have to face it alone. God is with us. For so many of us, we experience the thoughts and actions and words of another, and we're like, I'm in this by myself. But what if we were to stop to remember that we're not alone? In fact, the one who says that we are very good is standing right beside us. Now, when we look at the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we actually see some different viewpoints on injustice. See, for some of us, we're like these three guys. Right? We are experiencing injustice. And if that's you, I want you to know this. God is with you. Like, you have value, you have worth, and you are deserving of respect. Why? Because you are made in the image of God. You are an image bearer of the Creator of everything. See, you can share your experience with God. We call that prayer. By talking to God. God, here's what I'm going through. Crazy thing is, God knows it. He still wants us to talk to Him about what we experience. You can talk to a friend or maybe even your leader, a trusted adult. If you're ever wondering, is this person a safe person for me to share my experience with, I would say, if you can say yes to these three things, then they're a good choice. Do they love God, care about you, and have they proven to be trustworthy over time? They love God, care about you, and if proven to be trustworthy, then go for it. Share it with them. Keep going. Keep fighting. Don't just give up. Do something about the injustice you're experiencing. For some of us, maybe we're more like King Nebuchadnezzar. And here's the thing, if that's you, God is also with you. See, for some of us, we're choosing to participate in injustice. We're choosing to use our words or our actions to harm those around us. Here's what I would say. Just because that person is who you were doesn't mean that's who you have to be. Like, you can change. You can go from someone who contributed to injustice to someone who pursues justice. And there's this guy in the New Testament, his name's Paul. And he was hunting down Christians. Then he encountered Jesus. And in this encounter, he went from hunting Jesus to being a follower of Jesus, from being a follower of Jesus to being a leader of followers of Jesus. See, you don't have to stay that person. And for some of us, maybe we're more like the crowds watching. And if that's you, you guessed it, God is with you too. So maybe we're on the sidelines, we're watching, we're going, hey, I'm not like actively contributing, but I laugh. I'm not actively contributing, but I go along with it. I'm not actively contributing, but I'm not saying no. Here's the thing. You can stand up. You can do something. You don't have to just see it or hear about it and not do something. You can actually get involved. When you and I experience injustice, we don't have to experience it alone. We don't have to feel like it's all on us and we have nowhere to go. See, that's actually one of the main reasons that we want to do life together. We have life groups. Groups of people doing life together, talking about the things that you're experiencing, building each other up, reminding each other that you are made in the image of God, because you are. But so often the world around us is trying to tell us something different. And when you step into a group of people doing life together, you're allowing yourself to express what you've experienced. You don't have to tell everybody everything, but you do need to tell somebody something. And when you discover what it's like to have somebody listen to what you experience, it reminds you that you have value. So, if you're experiencing injustice, I want to put this number up right here. Text it, and let's talk. If you're a part of a small group or a life group, pull your leader aside and talk about it. You don't have to stay in that space. You matter. You matter more than you will ever know. And if no one else is going to tell you that today, then let me be the one to tell you. You have great value because you reflect the image of God. And that's good enough for me. Until next time.